Oh, you're here. Good. I was hoping for company. You see, I've got stories, dark ones, chilling ones, the kind that keep you up at night. Mythical creatures, curses, horrors you can't escape. Shall we begin? Don't worry, I won't bite. Much.
It was the heart of winter. Lee, a school teacher who had been volunteering in a remote mountain village, was on his way back after a supply trip to the nearby town. He had taken this winding mountain road many times before, riding his old motorbike through valleys and ridges. He knew every bend, every slope. But that day, something was different. A thick fog had risen without warning. It rolled over the hills, like layers of wet cloth clinging to the mountains, swallowing the road. Lee squinted as he slowed down. His bike's headlights barely lit a few feet ahead. The road, usually so familiar, now looked alien. He came to a fork in the road and frowned. He didn't remember there being a fork here. His GPS had lost signal, his phone had gone blank, and the only thing he could hear was the rumble of wind and the faint murmur of the forest. Just as he considered pulling over to wait out the fog, he heard a hoarse voice calling through the mist. "Young man, please help me." The voice was faint, broken, and desperate. Startled, Lee parked the bike and slowly stepped forward into the fog. There by the roadside stood a small elderly woman wrapped in a threadbare cotton coat, trembling from cold and panic. "Ma'am, what's wrong?" he asked gently. She looked up at him with eyes full of tears. "My granddaughter, she's burning with fever. She's unconscious. There's no doctor in the village. Please save her." I'm not a doctor," Lee hesitated, startled by her distress. "You look like a learned man. You must know something. Anything. No one from our village goes down the mountain anymore. But last night I had a dream. The mountain spirit told me that a kind man would come today and that he could save my child. I waited all morning. Then I saw you. Please just come with me. Just see her." Before he could react, the old woman dropped to her knees, kowtowing to him again and again. Her white hair brushed against the muddy ground. Her forehead thudded against stone. Lee was so startled he nearly reached to stop her out of reflex. His heart ached. He wasn't a doctor, but he did have some training in first aid and had packed a few common medicines from the school's infirmary. Maybe, just maybe, he could help. "All right," he said firmly. "I'll go with you." The woman broke into sobs of gratitude, thanking him over and over again. He locked his motorbike, slung his heavy backpack over one shoulder, and helped the woman up. "Our village is just over that ridge," she said, pointing ahead. "The fog is thick. Please don't lose sight of me." Lee nodded and followed her into the mist. The mountain path was rough and overgrown. Wet leaves and hidden roots made each step a risk. The fog didn't lift. If anything, it grew thicker. The only sounds were the squish of the old woman's cloth shoes and the creaking of Lee's pack. The air smelled of damp earth and pine needles, laced with a musty scent that somehow raised the hairs on Lee's arms. They walked for what felt like forever. Finally, dim lights appeared through the veil of mist. As they drew closer, Lee saw a tiny village, mud walls, stone roofs, wooden doors with peeling paint. There were no street lamps, just a few flickering candle lights behind paper windows. The village looked like something out of another time, like it had been forgotten by the world. The old woman led him through a narrow stone alley to a weathered wooden house. The door was open, and the weak glow of oil lamps revealed a middle-aged woman cradling a small girl on a straw-covered bed. Her face was pale with worry, her hands trembling. The child lay limp and feverish, face flushed, lips purplish, murmuring faintly in a fevered daze. Lee rushed forward. He took the girl's pulse, quickly wrapped a cold towel around her head, then used a cloth-covered spoon handle to gently pry open her clenched jaw so she could breathe better. He pressed her acupressure points and carefully stimulated her consciousness, then pulled out a packet of antibiotics from his bag, amoxicillin in powder form. He asked for boiled water, mixed it, and gently poured it into her mouth. "Also bring some water with sugar and salt," he told the family. "She's losing fluids fast." The villagers watched in stunned silence. They had never seen treatment like this. Everything he did seemed foreign yet miraculous. After a while, the girl's breathing slowed. The purple hue faded from her lips. Though she hadn't woken up, she looked less like she was dying. At that moment, the old woman fell to her knees again, choking on her sobs. You're the one the spirit spoke of. You are the fated one only after you came. Could the mountain lamp be lit?" Before Lee could ask what she meant, a deep ancient bell rang outside the window. Someone outside shouted, "The mountain lamp is about to shine." Lee turned to look through the misted glass. Up on the slope outside the village, barely visible through the fog, a small wooden temple glowed with the faintest shimmer of blue light. The mountain lamp, long thought extinguished, was flickering back to life. At that moment, it felt as if the entire village had been stirred awake by some unseen force. The bell tolled again, its low, mournful sound rolling down the hills like a wave. Lee turned toward the noise, following the villagers' gaze. Up on the slope, barely visible through the shifting fog, stood a small wooden shrine. A pale bluish light shimmered from within, growing steadily brighter. The light seemed to pulse, calm, steady, like a living breath. The villagers dropped to their knees, bowing low, their voices murmuring in unison. Ancient-sounding words, whispered like prayer, spilled into the air. The old woman and the mother were still clutching the feverish girl tightly, their eyes brimming with tears. Lee stood frozen in place. For a brief moment he wondered if he'd wandered into some other world, some place beyond life and death, beyond reason. Then he heard whispers behind him. "It's him. He lit the lamp." "Yes," someone else said. "Only an outsider with fate, only a destined one, can awaken the mountain lamp." An elder stepped forward. He moved slowly, his long beard white as frost, the deep wrinkles on his face like valleys carved by time. The villagers parted to make way for him. He stopped in front of Lee and gave a deep bow. "I am the village head," he said solemnly. "That lamp, it hasn't lit for 30 years. We've tried everything." But the spirit would not answer. Only someone with fate, someone the mountain accepts, can call it forth. He paused, his voice low and steady. "Tonight, you saved the child, and you lit the mountain lamp. The mountain has spoken through you." Before Lee could reply, a small sound broke the stillness, a faint groan. He turned around. The little girl had opened her eyes. Though weak and dazed, her gaze had regained clarity. She moved her lips slightly and murmured, "Grandma." The old woman gasped, then burst into tears. She hugged the girl tightly, her cries muffled in her shoulder. "She's alive. She's really alive." The room erupted with joy. Even the most stoic elders couldn't hide the relief in their eyes. Outside, the blue light from the mountain lamp flared softly, as if in quiet celebration. The fog, which had clung so thickly to the trees, now hung back as if out of reverence, allowing a ring of clear air to form around the shrine. Lee stood by the window, looking out. That light, it was unlike any flame or bulb he had ever seen. It was cool, almost silver blue, not glaring, but piercing through the fog like moonlight on water. It didn't warm the skin, but somehow it warmed the heart. It brought with it a kind of peace, gentle and steady, like a lullaby only the forest could sing. Later the girl was tucked into bed, her breathing steady, her fever finally broken. The mother stayed close, constantly wiping her forehead. The room was calm again. The village head turned to Lee. "Would you take a walk with me?" he asked. Lee nodded, and together they stepped out into the narrow, stone-paved lane. The village was quiet, but the lamp's glow lit their path like a soft beacon. As they walked, Lee finally asked the question that had been burning inside him. "Elder, you keep calling me a fated one, but I'm just a school teacher. I don't understand. Why me?" The old man smiled faintly, eyes half shaded by his bushy brows. "It is not for us to decide who is worthy. The mountain chooses, and it has chosen you." After a pause, he continued, 30 years ago, this village survived a terrible fire. Half the shrine was burned, ever since the lamp went dark, and we believed the spirit had turned its back on us. But every few years, he added, someone in the village dreams of a stranger arriving. A kind soul, a wanderer who will carry light into the dark. Last night I had that dream. He reached into his coat and took out a small bronze token. It was old, its surface worn smooth by time. "This is the spirit's token," the elder said, handing it to Lee. "You've already received the mountain's blessing. But if there's a wish in your heart, any wish at all, hang this token in the shrine before dawn. The mountain may hear it." Lee took the token carefully. It was cold to the touch, heavier than it looked. Strange characters were carved into its surface, ancient and unreadable. He didn't say much, just nodded and held it tight. By the time they returned to the house, the mountain lamp still glowed in the distance, but the sky above had lightened a bit, just a shade. The fog, though present, no longer pressed so tightly. Lee glanced down at the token again. He didn't know what to believe. But he knew one thing for sure. This night had changed something inside him. Around the edge of the village, the mountain lamp still glowed faintly, casting a quiet halo of light that kept the cold mist at bay. Lee sat in the small wooden house, the bronze token resting in his palm. He hadn't slept a wink. He was planning to leave at sunrise, yet his mind kept circling back to everything that had happened. For a man who always believed in reason, science, and things one could touch, tonight had shaken something deep inside him. As the sky began to pale and a sliver of dawn crept across the horizon, the villagers quietly gathered at the shrine. One by one they lit incense and bowed deeply. The air was calm, almost sacred. The village elder came to Lee and led him into the shrine once more. He motioned for Lee to hang the token above the incense burner directly before the still burning mountain lamp. "You may make a wish," the elder said softly. "Any wish at all. The mountain spirit will hear it." Lee said nothing at first. His hands were steady, but his chest felt tight. There was indeed a wish buried deep in his heart, a wound that had never healed. It was the reason he had chosen this remote life in the mountains, the reason he avoided the bustle of the cities. 3 years ago, during his last year of university, Lee had lost the love of his life, Lou, in a sudden car accident. She was only 22. The two of them had planned everything together, to graduate, to get jobs helping others, to move to the countryside. It was her idea to return to her family's hometown and teach there. After her death, Lee couldn't bear to stay in the city. He had come here instead, to fulfill her dream, for her and maybe in some way to be closer to her. So now, in this strange, mist-wrapped moment, standing before a flickering blue flame, he closed his eyes and whispered, "If there really is a spirit watching over this place, I wish my love could return to me." I want to spend my days with her, just like we promised." He opened his eyes slowly, said no more, and stepped back. The villagers took their turns, bowing to the shrine. Even the little girl, still groggy from the fever, was held gently by her mother as she gave a sleepy nod. When the ceremony was over, the elder walked with Lee to the edge of the village. "The fog will lift," the elder said, gazing into the gray distance. "You may leave now." Lee glanced around. The lamp's light was fading slightly, the sky growing brighter. He slung his backpack over his shoulders and looked back one last time. "Elder?" He hesitated. "Do you ever think of leaving this place?" The old man smiled faintly. "Mountain folk, we keep the fires of our ancestors. Even if we left, there'd be nowhere else for us to go. If the mountain spirit allows us to live, we live. If not, we bow our heads and follow the wind." Lee felt his throat tighten. He wasn't sure whether it was sorrow for their quiet fate or just the strange weight of everything he'd experienced. "Head east," the elder said, gently patting his shoulder. "Don't worry. The fog will make way for you." Lee nodded and stepped into the mist. He hadn't gone far when the heavy fog, so thick it had hidden entire mountains, began to drift apart. A clear path revealed itself, winding gently through the trees. Lee turned around, but the village behind him was gone. The buildings, the shrine, even the lamp vanished, swallowed once again by the mist. By the time he reached the main road, the sun had just crested the hills. His phone lit up with signal. His motorcycle was still parked right where he had left it, neat and untouched. It was as if nothing had happened. But Lee knew it had. He took a deep breath of the morning air, started the engine, and made his way back down the road. Later that afternoon, back at his cottage in the village where he lived, something felt off. The old roof tiles had been replaced. The house looked freshly cleaned, as if someone had been there. As he stepped inside, a familiar scent wafted toward him, a faint floral smell, her favorite shampoo. He froze. From the bedroom door, a young woman stepped out, drying her hair with a towel. "Hey," she said, smiling. "What are you daydreaming about again? You've been gone forever." Lee didn't answer. His breath caught. Lou was standing there, alive, smiling, real. She walked over and continued talking like nothing had happened. "While you were gone, I signed a deal with the village to lease 4 acres of land. I want to grow medicinal herbs. If it works, I'll teach the locals too. It might help everyone earn more." She kept talking, but Lee heard none of it. He stepped forward and pulled her into a tight embrace, burying his face in her shoulder. She was warm. She was breathing. She was there. His wish had come true. A few days later, Lee went to the county pharmacy to restock some medicine. As he reached into his coat pocket, his fingers brushed against something small and cool, the bronze token. It had somehow returned to him. He didn't try to explain it, didn't even question it. Some things he realized were not meant to be understood. All that mattered was that this time he would cherish every moment. No more regrets, only gratitude.